Yo, what's up, Joshua?
Hey man, good to see you, DCC.
What's going on, man? Phew. Sorry, you
Good.
guys. We were in
Well,
heated discussion. Heated discussion.
we were a lot of backstage talking.
Definitely, definitely. Hey, Joshua, for the guys that don't know you, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Joshua. You can call me Josh. Either one I'm cool with. But yeah, I make a little slideshow going here. Let's put this up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This is the slideshow man himself, man. Like he came onto the scene on the 24-hour live stream and just like hit us with like this fire hose of like spreadsheets and like charts and information. We're like, what the fuck? It was really
Yeah,
cool.
man, and then like what last week, we had a few slideshows, and then Alex came in on a community call, and he's like,
Right.
can you give me these slides? These are better than our internal team slides. I'm like, all right, here we go. So I sent him an email the other day.
Oof. Oof. The guys on the team
So
are
we'll
like
see,
sweating.
But
Oh no.
yeah. So just a quick thing. Yeah, my name's Josh or Joshua. Some of the stuff I'll be presenting today. I got the data collected together in collaboration with a few other Celsians. But a lot of the analysis and kind of the presentation of how the data is shown is by and large from me. Um, a little bit about myself. So I'm formally trained in data analysis. I have my bachelor's in biochemistry, and that has a lot to do with analyzing big data, especially if you go into the genomics field. I have my postbac in biblical theology and also a master's in education and business. I'm currently still working full time as a data and as an automation scientist. But I also have a small business that I run together with my wife, and we are financial consultants. So we help folks get their finances together and provide some tax advice when that comes around in the season.
Oh, cool. I didn't know you did taxes. That's cool.
Yeah. So I know taxes in crypto are it's a big thing these days. So yeah,
Definitely.
hit me
It
up.
is a super niche, super niche. No, definitely, definitely, definitely. We'll talk after this as well and stuff. Because we're trying to build sort of a team of like recommended people in terms of to do taxes for everybody as well. So
Yeah,
it's
the
it's a
I
very,
there
very
are
sensitive
there
issue.
are very sensitive, and actually there's not a whole lot of good advice really. So
Yeah. It's pretty trash out here, and so when it comes to the crypto advice, I mean, it's just more or less they're just treating it like a commodity, and they're like, well, it's like this, and then there you go, and then they just try to I'm a cookie cutter it into what they normally do anyway, you know.
yeah, I'll be honest, I wouldn't even recommend myself yet. I can only probably give you some tax breaks, but not all of them.
Some tax breaks.
But yeah, anyway, that's just a little bit about me. Some things I've invested in the past. So I've actually I'm a relatively new investor.
Right.
I've been investing since 2017. I touched the first thing I touched as an investment was ARC, and maybe you guys are familiar with them with Kathy Wood at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I kind of picked up a lot of my investment thinking and philosophies from her style, which is she invests in like disruptive technologies and has like these 3 to 5 year time horizons.
Right.
And then I jumped into Tesla in 2018, and for anyone who invested in Tesla, that's when they were going through Model 3 production hell, and it was really a make it or break it moment for them. So there's like this infamous picture of Elon Musk with a sign saying like homeless, and he's sitting on a Model 3.
Right.
And so it was that was the bear market for Tesla, and we all know how that performed,
Yeah.
this year. So it was probably one of my best investments. Probably right next to Bitcoin. So I bought one Bitcoin in 2018. I don't know if I'd call it investment, but I bought one Bitcoin
Pretty good.
because I saw a huge dump. But I thought it was a real thing. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get one.
Yeah. I mean, it's just. I
It
mean,
worked
it's
out.
it worked. It worked. Did you know? You remember what price you ended up buying it at?
I bought it on Coinbase.
Oh, you bought it on Coinbase? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Did you get it sub 10,000?
I think it was like around 6 or 7,000. Yeah.
Oh, you bought pretty close to the bottom. That's good. That's a
Yep.
great price. Yeah, because like I think we didn't even bottom out. We didn't finish bottoming out until maybe like uh February of 2019. I think. Yeah, which is like
Yeah. Truthfully, I ran out of money, so all my money was in this. It was in Tesla and in ARK. I was like, my wife was like, "Honey, what are you doing with our money?" So and then I started to get into real estate, but I didn't want to deal with managing properties and tenants and all the tenants and toilets. But I believed in like putting real estate in your portfolio is an important part. So I started investing in Fundrise, both as a investor and as an equity owner. And what I really like about this company is, unlike a traditional REIT, their management fees are much lower,
mm,
and you can't pull your money out. Like, so it's actually very illiquid. Your capital is locked up for 3 to 5 years, and what that does is it stabilizes the price. So you don't get these huge price swings, but you get this like general gradual appreciation of like 15% per year, which is really, really great.
got it.
So they protect you from yourself. Um, and then of course I picked up Ethereum in 2020 recently. And then recently Celsius also in November. My cost basis is around a little under $1.
Whew.
And yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, that's good.
And
That's
then
real
recently I
good.
picked, and it's still really good. It's still really good as a long term play. And even in this market, in this cycle, it's still going to be a really strong long term play. And then I picked up recently Vesper because if CeFi doesn't make it, Vesper is going to make it. It's a pure DeFi play, but it's kind of like decentralized Celsius. But maybe we won't get it. I don't know if we'll get into that today. But so this is kind of my portfolio at the moment.
Right.
I got a little bit of cash here and there. Also got my house and stuff. But yeah.
We can liquidate that and throw it into crypto pretty soon. Don't worry, man.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, honey,
Do we need a bed?
Do we need
do we need this? I mean, we just cardboard boxes is all we need to live, really.
Do we need bed sheets? Can we just get rid of everything?
We're trying to get the Michael Saylor selling selling the kitchen sink for Bitcoin.
Yeah, man. But no, I wanna stay married.
But definitely, yeah. If you want to show some of the slides, sure, you definitely can. Just share the ones you'd like to share, and then yeah, we can kind of go over maybe some of the growth trajectories and sort of the stuff we're seeing in terms of Celsius. Obviously, we're in a positive feedback loop right now in terms of the market's bullish, and we're getting more and more interest in terms of users. So the whole space is expanding pretty quickly. So obviously, Celsius is grabbing their chunk of the pie of that growth.
Let's do it. So let's jump straight into probably the first metric that is on everybody's mind, which is our active wallets.
Right. My favorite.
This is our active wallets for the past active wallet growth per week for the past.
Can you share the screen? I don't think you're sharing it.
Oh, I'm not. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Like I was sharing the slideshow this whole time, and then like nothing's been showing up. I'm sorry, guys. That was my bad.
It's all good. It's all good.
Or maybe that was DCC's fault. He was supposed to tell me that I wasn't sharing.
We were just talking intro stuff and everything, so, and then I was like, "Yeah." Then you started going into the slides, and I was like, "Oh shit,
man! I had this like whole thing. Look.
Oh my god!
Wow! And I had this whole thing too, man. Come on. Come on, I'm the slideshow guy.
Fucking rugged, bro.
DCC, here, bro. You let me down, man.
There you go, man. Full screen now. You get full screen.
Okay, yeah. This is me. This is my investments, right? My portfolio, and then this is my investment philosophy.
Dude, if I showed my investments, I would not be able to fit it on the screen right here. It would be too much bullshit.
We all, I don't know, we all got our own portfolios and manage them our own ways, right?
Yeah. Do you still hold your Tesla to this day, or did you end up like kind of divesting that into more crypto side?
I told myself I was never going to sell my Tesla until I came across Celsius. Yeah.
That's well, hey, that's a great. Honestly, that's a great conversion. Honestly, that's a
Yeah,
great
you know,
investment.
like it worked out. Like I was ready to lose it all when I put my money in Tesla and
Right.
when I put it into Celsius, and I'm still ready to lose it all. So I'm going until the end with you guys.
Fuck yeah. I mean, that's the thing, dude. I mean, myself personally, I mean, outside of just my whatever stuff I have that's done by my businesses, like I am 100% all in into crypto. Like, I am, and probably like 89% of my net worth is in crypto right now. Plus, probably.
Yeah, I think like it's easy to do that if you have cash flow. So like you've got your side
Right.
businesses. I've got, I've still got my full-time job. My wife is working, so we've got income that protects us if something happens with our investment. So it's definitely good to invest from a position of safety.
Oh no, no, definitely, definitely. But just it's like but sometimes you guys swing, especially. It's like when I say swing, to invest heavy into something is fine, but it's just where you can get wrecked is where people just don't borrow too much in terms of like borrowing on assets you shouldn't be borrowing on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say my edge in the market as it historically has always just been my quant. So that's who I am. DCC, man, he's a narrative guy. He's like so good at narratives. I'm a quant guy.
I mean, we'll just Wonder Twin Power activate, and we'll work together. We'll do
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the,
let's do it.
the
Love
quant
it.
the quantstory.com.
So let's
Yeah.
get into the moon math
Sure,
for
sure.
Celsius. So this chart here is our weekly active wallet growth for the past, I think I got 8 months here since last July. And the green lines are the growth for that week. And then the
Percentage
orange
gain, right?
line is by percentage gain, right?
Okay.
And the orange line is the average over time. So you can see that the orange line is going up, which means our average weekly wallet growth is going up. We were at 3% last year, but now we're at 4% per week. And just for, I'm sure there's a lot of Celsians here already, but active wallet, Celsius defines as someone that has more than $10 of deposits.
Mm.
Um, and our active user growth is accelerating.
Okay.
So when you plot the actual raw number of active users or active wallets over time, that's the green line that you see here.
Yeah.
And you fit it. So you can fit the line with various types of what are called regression models or best fit lines, which basically says like what model best matches the data. Is it linear? Is it exponential? Is it logarithmic? And in the case of anything that has sort of a petri dish type of phenomena or an S-curve type phenomena, it usually fits in what we call a polynomial fit, which in this case it's a second-degree polynomial, or in common terms you could say it's an exponential fit. And so what you can see is that it actually fits quite nicely. And then if you look at the stats, one of the stats that you look at, although it's not the only number that you look at, is the R squared, which basically says how much of the data actually fits this model. In this case, about 99.7% of the data fits this model.
Wow.
And you extrapolate the data forward a couple of months, you can start to see like where we might be. Here I've got us going at about 300,000 active wallets by June, and maybe 500,000 by September.
Right. And currently, how many are we at right now? We're at what, like 200,000, more or less?
We're at 220.
Like 220? Okay, yeah. So about 80,000 extra wallets, active
Yep.
wallets, and those active wallets, you're counting them as essentially, $10 per week or per month in active deposits, or it's more. Is there a certain dollar amount in terms to be counted as an active wallet?
Yeah, Alex said as long as they have more than $10 in the wallet, they're considered an active wallet. Alex, so there's a few things though. What you bring up a really good point, because number one, our partners like Voyager and Line and any other partner that uses our APIs to deposit coins into the wallet, I think those are considered only one active wallet.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And then secondly, our institutional clients, so like I've got a small business running through Celsius, that's not considered an active wallet either.
Got it.
So these, I guess you could say, are just like mainly like just the average retail user with $10 or more.
Okay. I mean, but hey, that really adds up, you know. But that's good. I
Right.
mean, that's good. That's good to know. Like, okay, that. So, and the rest of the users are just basically people who made like a one-time deposit, or is it more just like they downloaded the app, signed up or something, and then no longer use it? Because like that's one explanation I never gotten for the rest of the users. Because obviously, when at least in my head, when I thought of active wallets, I always thought of like it was users that were maybe making a monthly deposit every month. That's what I thought the active
Yeah,
wallets were.
maybe you're right. As far as I know, it's like one time and you're good to go, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll dig into that later, but that's really useful. And to tell you the truth, I think you're very active on the June number. I think September might be going a little faster, but I mean, but it's shit. I mean, even if you're on point with this, that's really good. That's really good because that's basically almost we're doing what like a 2.3x or something like that, or 2.2x from here. So which that's a lot more active users. That's good.
Yeah, I want to actually highlight what you just said. The reason that we might be going faster than what this graph is showing is because, as I showed here, our orange line, which is our average active weekly wallet growth, it's accelerating. So there's a very high possibility that we overshoot September by several thousand active wallets. So this is kind of at our current trajectory, but we might accelerate, especially with all the mega deals. And here's a piece of alpha. Last night during the Tuesday Clubhouse meeting, Kim, she said that she's working on a major influencer to talk about Celsius, and so that's obviously going to bring in a lot of other users.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff planned. I mean, like, here's some alpha and stuff too. Like, I mean, what this is sort of me pulling some sort of dots together. But from what so one thing that I was really looking into was the obviously from the discussion we had earlier and stuff in terms of the fund, I was looking at Fireblocks, and Fireblocks had like a C round, and their lead investor was I think it was like New York Mellon or NY Mellon, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be one of the major investors in Celsius is actually that bank, actually, as well into Celsius and stuff. Because in order for that, if I were the bank, right, if I were just to deconstruct this, it was okay, I want to go into crypto, but how the hell can I convince my investors? Okay, what if we own a part of the company that custodies the stuff, so that way we can legally say, yo, we also own the company that custody it, so we can sort of allow Celsius to take whatever we let them take, and then we're also custodying most of our own stuff, technically, since we own it. That's a loophole. And I was thinking that might be a way the bank might be getting around it. That's kind of what I've been thinking is going on there, because
that might be within the realm of possibility. As a quant guy, that's how I have to say it. I can't say like that's yes or no. It's like it's within the realm of possibility.
Within the realm of possibility.
There's a non-zero probability that occurs.
Okay, cool. Because it just made sense to me. Like most of these banks, right? If they go into a round, they never lead it. They always just they just either the average or the smallest guy, because that's what I've seen in banks is that they'll go into a round and they're just like, they're usually the end at the tail end, the small fish in the round, but they led the round. I was like, why the fuck are they leading the round?
Hey man, I've said publicly that I'm pretty sure one, if not the lead investor, is going to be the NBA. If not the NBA, the WNBA.
Well, okay. Well, I don't want to see that. Just keep my mouth shut. I'll take whatever we can get.
So if you look at the model and you back test it for the past 180 days, this is just to show how accurate the model has been. It's been plus or minus 5%. So pretty accurate. So that's why we can kind of trust these models, because you back test them against previous data and you see how accurate it was. So let's do some quick min math. So right now, Celsius has around 220,000 active wallets or depositors. And if we assume, right, 3.5% weekly growth, that's actually about 600% annualized. Only in crypto can you get something that has 600% annualized. Even Tesla can't grow at 600%. So 3.5% for the next 36 weeks. We could potentially end the year with the data that we have close to about 700K.
The 700K, and that's active depositors, not the and over 4. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, this is what you're the only other person that's ever had the that high of a number. Where because I've been feeling like a crazy person thinking these. because I've been saying like once, because like I mean, if we're just thinking this logically in terms of what I've seen in terms of hype waves, the minute you hit 1 million, it's just it just starts, because it's like the number's so much larger. So it's like obviously if it's really growing that quickly, you're really you're adding what, like 35,000 extra people a week or some shit like that. So it's
I think we really underestimate, like we historically, humans have always had a hard time estimating exponential growth. And that's why we have to rely on numbers to kind of like blow up our brains, and otherwise we just don't believe it. And you know, okay, let's say like we still don't believe it, right? For comparison, Coinbase grew to 5 million users in 3 years.
Right.
So we're in the middle of a bull market. This is definitely within the realm of possibility. And in fact, I would say it's within the realm of high probability based on the data.
Right.
So like, hold on to your bags, because 2022 is going to be much bigger than 2021.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that number isn't 8 million, honestly. For 22, it just depends on, like, because if we just keep current growth rates, it could grow to that. Then it can grow even faster if there's just some like hype news or just some sort of like event, like a catalyst. You know,
I think there's actually the possibility we hit 1 million by the end of this year, given all the catalysts that are coming up. I mean, credit card, equity round, mega deal. Can't even count them on both hands.
Yeah, and you're talking about active, right? When we talk about 1 million, yeah, I think you're
right.
Yep. I think you're completely correct on that.
And if we want to like count all real customers, right, like business clients and all those and all those folks, like we probably have 1 million by end of year. It's just we don't have a way to count it.
Right. That's amazing.
It's crazy. It's just crazy.
But obviously, we always lean in with the bigger number, which is the total wallets, which is we'll hit them, because we'll hit 1 million. I mean, let's see.
We have like what, 600,000 users, right?
So what does that mean? We hit 1 million in July?
Oh yeah, we'll hit 1 million in July, and maybe like 2 million end of year, easy.
Brr.
All right, so that's kind of our active users. So 4 million by end of 2022. Let's see. So here I've got another chart, and you can find all these charts on my Twitter page. They're all public. You can audit them. You can argue with me if you disagree with the data. That's fine. Happy to. So what I have here is our net deposits on the y-axis, and then active wallets on the x-axis, and I plot it over time. And what you see is that there's a very strong linear correlation from active wallets to our net deposits, which makes sense, right? For every active wallet that you get some amount of net deposits. What I didn't expect was it to be linear, because that means that every active wallet that we're adding adds about the same amount, which is kind of interesting. And according to the math, it says that each active wallet is depositing $55,000 into the app.
Is that sort of an average? I think, because obviously some users are doing less, but you have some of the bigger ones. It's like you had 9 small fishes and 1 big fish, and that equals it out.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going on. And also we've got asset appreciation going on here. So like you may have started off as a small fish in the beginning of the year,
right, with
1 BTC, but then that's appreciated over time, and so the net deposit of your thing goes up as well.
Yeah, because that's really like 55 per deposit. So that's 1 BTC. So the average guy probably started with a 10% or a quarter of a BTC portfolio, and then managed to grow it to a full BTC along with the other altcoins he has. So yeah, he has a 1 BTC per. Crypto's beautiful, man.
It's crazy, man. But so there is like a confounding variable here, which means that there's a variable that we're not entirely accounting for, which is this asset appreciation. But assuming that we continue to appreciate in crypto value at the rate that we've been going through this year, And our kind of active wallet deposit per depositor remains about the same, we could probably expect $14 billion in net deposits at 300,000 active wallets. And I had put us out in June for that. So this is, I would say, well within the realm of reason.
Right.
There's an important note here. So another piece of alpha. Apparently, our AUM. So everyone kind of dogs on AUM because it includes the cell token treasury, right?
Right.
But actually, AUM does not include the entire cell token treasury. It only includes the portion of the cell token treasury that is earning yield. So the cell token treasury that's deployed or being used as collateral or things of that nature. Furthermore, AUM also includes institutional money that is not included in net deposits and wrapped BTC. So our AUM number is actually not inflated as a lot of people think. It's actually more accurate than net deposits because it includes all of the assets that Celsius is managing.
Right. So in terms of like, what do you think it's like within like 20% of accuracy? I know that's a, because obviously there is things we're just not being told, right? But it's
right.
But I do when you told me this like earlier when we were talking in the green room, I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense and stuff. And too, because did you mention the other part in terms of non-performing assets, or did you?
Oh no, right. So non-performing assets are not included in the AUM.
Correct. Yeah. So that's why it's so accurate and stuff, because it's only stuff that they can actually earn. So that's pretty pretty awesome. That means that AUM could actually explode even higher once they get into more and more markets. And that's also another reason why the partnership deals that could be happening in the future are really important, because even if those partners don't invest anything at all, but at least allow Celsius into bigger markets, then more and more of the treasury can then be put into work, which will just increase the AUM, which will increase the buybacks, which makes money go burr.
Yes, absolutely. And all of these institutional clients that we're going to continue to be onboarding, as well as probably, I expect if we get one or two banks, right, they're going to be putting money in Celsius, like not just as investments, but also as generating yield. I'm pretty sure that's going to be an offering.
It's going to be,
and that may not reflect in our net deposits, but that'll reflect in our AUM.
In our AUM, yeah. That is so if you're basically saying, so just so I explain to everybody, so if we just if we don't see the average user number shoot up 1 week and we just see the AUM explode, more than likely we just saw a institutional player come online, basically.
Exactly. And here's the interesting fact as well. So right now we've got, according to the app, we've got 17 billion in AUM. So that's about 7 billion more than what we have in net deposits. This is actually the biggest gap we've ever had in history, which probably means we're already starting to have some of those institutional clients come online, or we've got a lot of small business owners putting their treasuries into Celsius.
Got it.
So if you kind of want to like have a way to speculate whether or not institutions have started to come into Celsius, is measure the gap between AUM and net deposits. So here's some quick moon math. So let's assume that the trend continues and we have $550,000 of deposits per depositor, and we have 700,000 depositors by the end of 2021, based on the active users that I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
That could mean, theoretically, Celsius could have close to $40 billion in net deposits alone by the end of 2021. For comparison, Coinbase had $35 billion in 2020. So that's about and keep in mind also, this does not include AUM.
Right.
And let's just say, right? So right now AUM's trading about 60% more than our net deposits. Let's say by end of year, AUM is actually trading 100% more than net deposits because of all the institutional clients that we're getting. In theory, Celsius could be close to $80 billion in AUM. That's almost an 8x from today.
Yeah.
So hold on to your bags.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I have next here? Okay. So why is net deposits and why is AUM important to Celsius? And it's because they obviously generate yield on this AUM. And then part of this yield that is generated goes to the depositors, and part of those depositors are CEL token holders.
Right.
And we're returned part of that interest as what we call CEL token interest buybacks. And to check whether or not Celsius actually keeps their word, like, are they really funneling some interest to CEL token holders, is you can kind of track net deposits over time, and you can track CEL token weekly buybacks over time, and you can see if they're correlated. And the data suggests that they're at least 91%. 91% of the time they're correlated, which is what this number here means.
Right.
And it's a linear correlation, which makes sense. So for every $3 billion that we add in net deposits, we get about $1 extra million in weekly CEL token buybacks.
Okay.
I think I would like to be able to run this data with AUM in the future, but the problem with AUM is we don't get a regular feed of that. We only get updated every once every blue moon or so.
Right. So is it like once a month basically, or once every 3 weeks or something like that?
Right. Yeah, something like that. Whenever Nuke wants to, basically.
Start cracking the whip over there.
Yeah. Yeah, he was talking about Tom Brady the other day. I'm like, he was like tweeting about it in the middle of the weekday. I was like, you got time to tweet about Tom Brady? Come on, man. All right.
So it's just so I understand this, just to explain to everyone that's watching right now too. So basically, for every $3 billion net deposits, one-time deposits, correct, or retained deposits?
So this is like retained deposits in the app. Yeah.
Okay, retained deposits in the app. It essentially is $1 million per week, which is like $52 million a year of added interest payments of the weekly buybacks. Correct?
That's correct. Yep. CEL token alone. This does not include like all the other tokens that they're buying back, like the BTC and ETH and stuff like that. This is just CEL token buyback.
Just the CEL token buyback, but not the other ones in kind. But does this figure change with? Okay, so eventually, obviously not now, but I'm probably in late 22. We're probably gonna get earn and sell probably in the United States, and that's also going to increase because right now, like I'm the only token that I'm earning CEL token in is CEL token itself. Everything else I'm earning in kind, which is fine. It's okay because either way I still would have earned my synthetics on synthetics anyway because because I'm just trying to compound and I like the yield on that. But
what you said is so important because what's going to happen is as soon as earn and sell for US residents is activated, as soon as CEL token is deployed as more CEL tokens are deployed as collateral to generate yield, what's going to happen is these dots are going to start to deviate from the line, and they're actually going to start deviating onto the upside. So you'll have the same amount of net deposits, but the amount of CEL token weekly buybacks is going to be increasing. So what I'm going to be monitoring is I should be seeing some red dots up here in May or June whenever earn and sell is activated. Right.
Damn. Cannot wait. I mean, this is man, Josh, you could honey Dixon dude into fucking aping, bro. I'm serious.
What are we? What's CEL token price right now? It's like $6 or something.
It's $6.
Yeah, man. It's a deal. It's a steal.
It really is. It's like most tokens do not have this level of fundamentals. It's all fucking vaporware bullshit. It's
all vaporware. It's all speculation, and there's nothing really driving like the token price. These are all fundamentals that we're talking about.
Right. And fuck, man. It actually is. I mean, in terms of in terms of just like other than like the I saw the fundamentals obviously, and like I saw the pitch live from Alex himself. But what really attracted me to this project is like this is sort of like a little thesis I had in my brain. I was like, okay, if a crypto has an app, it's going to do really well. And I had this idea in my head since 2017. I was like, and when most apps that I saw in cryptocurrencies were like terrible It was basically just like a white screen that just said the name of the crypto, and that's it. That was the app basically for most things. And then when I first got into Celsius and I downloaded their app, because it's actually surprisingly when back in 20 I would say early 2020. I know right now there's Blockfolio app and there's all these other apps now and stuff and everything like that, but like there's Zapper and all this other stuff. But Argent, back then there was nothing at all in the app space for crypto at all. Like Celsius was probably one of the few apps actually on the App Store and stuff that you could actually download and that was actually usable. Because then when I played around with it, I was like, wow! Like the minute I saw the app and remembered that it was Alex who pitched this to me and like everyone else at the conference, like in 2019, I just instantly bought without thinking. Just because it was like it's because like the thing is like maybe because I am a pleb or like but I can sort of see what like the normal person's really gonna like, and it's really easy, right? So it's when I saw it, I was like, this is really intuitive, it's really easy to use. I just use people are like I was like, wow, I can just fat thumb this thing and put money in here, this is sick. That's all it's as simple as that is. Like that's exactly what you need to onboard a bunch of people onto there. Obviously it still had its hiccups and stuff in terms of acquisition, of trying to even get the tokens in the first place, because it was really difficult back in the day to get tokens, like especially if you're in the States. Outside of the States, I think you were able to just buy through Liquid, basically, if I remember right, back in the day.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, even now it's really hard for some people, especially here in the States. It's so gate kept. I mean, you basically have to either you buy from CellSwap if you're lucky, or you have to buy from Uniswap. But you essentially have to be buying with like almost an Ethereum plus, so the gas fees don't eat up too much into it. And I mean, like the gas fees, pretty much it's almost like a 5% tax on top of that. So just for being an American, you're getting dinged in the head with so it makes it harder to dollar cost average, because this was such a great token back in the day, because I used to be able to like buy, if I were to find some extra change in my pocket or just from a job or anything like that, I'd be like, oh, throw $50, get a little Cell token. Oh shoot, let me throw $100 into Cell token, like that. It was really fun. It like, that's the only thing I don't like about the gas fees that are happening right now. It's took the fun away from stacking. Like, yeah.
Anybody that has other crypto that is in the Celsius wallet and is outside of the US, now is the time to be earning in Cell, not when Cell runs. Because when Cell is low and your other assets are high and you earn in Cell, you're basically getting dollar cost average of Cell on the cheap.
Right.
And that's like what you were doing, but with like your regular income. But that's what people ought to be doing now when Cell token is dipping.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, this was like one of the first times like people were able to just you're basically yield farming Celsius. I mean, that's
exactly.
It's pretty interesting if you think about that. That's what yield farming is. So there's people on here that like deposited Bitcoin to earn on Bitcoin, and then at some point decided, you know what, I'll just choose to earn and sell. And essentially they just gave their economic energy. I like, only me and Dax have actually called Celsius this in streams and stuff, is as a vampire. Essentially, it lures you in, right, with like yield and everything, and you come for the yield, but you end up earning and sell in the end. So you end up you spend money to buy let's just say Bitcoin, right? And your economic energy is in Bitcoin, and you choose to then take the risk of putting Bitcoin on sell to earn. Bitcoin on sell, so you can earn more Bitcoin. But what ends up happening is that eventually you end up giving the leverage and that economic energy to the Cell token to buy more Cell token, which is that was always killed me, dude. It's like so many people have just come for other yield and then eventually just end up giving their yield to Cell token, which is funny.
It's just all roads lead back to Cell.
Right.
Here's another piece of interesting alpha. So it turns out that so I've always thought that like partnerships, like API integrations like Voyager, are actually bad for the Cell token, because like basically none of the customers are earning in Cell, right?
Right.
But I actually asked Alex about this. I'm like, it sounds to me that partnerships are not in the interest of Cell token owners. And then he said, in the case of Voyager, I'm not sure about other partners, 59% of the interest earned from Voyager deposits actually goes back to buying CEL tokens.
How so?
So basically, whatever portion of the revenue being generated through that partnership, about 59% of that is funneled to buying CEL tokens because they know that these customers can't earn in CEL token. So they use that revenue to buy back CEL tokens and give it to the Celsius customers who have CEL tokens.
Got it.
So the point being here is that as Celsius onboards more and more partners, you shouldn't think like, hey man, this isn't going to pump my CEL token. You should be thinking, actually, it is, because some part of that revenue is going to be funneled to the CEL token in buybacks, and that's coming to me.
Right, because it essentially gives Celsius more revenue. Because it has more revenue, that means they can support a higher price. Correct?
Yep,
Is
exactly.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, that's a major key right there. That's a major key because basically, I mean, I don't know how deep you want to get into this right here, but like a big part of like the run up on CEL is basically if they can afford to pay the huge amount of like on the CEL token and stuff. So the more money they earn, it's better for the company as well as everyone's paychecks.
Exactly, 100%. Let me see if I can pull up thing.
Yeah, and if you don't want to share some of this stuff, I totally understand.
Yeah, no worries. No, this is actually, I think, I know, I know we're all moon boys and crypto degens here, but I have to share a little bit of FA. So what I have here is a figure of just like a simple illustrative way to think about the Celsius capital stack.
Right.
And what a capital stack is, it's like how is capital distributed to all the different stakeholders in the company. And so for Celsius, there's really just there's a couple handful of them. So there's CEL token holders, there's their customer depositors. They've also got folks that they owe debt to, and then they also have the employees who they have to pay salaries to. They have taxes to the government, and then they have equity holders. At the moment, Alex is the main equity holder.
Right.
But so how much of the value is the company generating funneled to these different stakeholders? And so what I have at the top are this is just a simplification for easy understanding. Some of the revenue sources, right? And then how much of that revenue is funneled to the different stakeholders? Well, 80%, about 80%, give or take some, is to the depositors. And among the depositors, there's really just two kinds, right? There's the CEL token the folks that hold CEL token, and then there's everybody else.
All right.
And historically, 35% of depositor interest has been paid back to CEL token holders, while the other 45% is to all the other coins, basically. And when I say 35 and 45, I mean 35 of the 80 and 45 of the 80. So it should equal 80. And then if you look at their financial statements, they have very little debt, actually, which is really good, which is really amazing. I had an interview with Harumi the other day, and because of she said this, this is what she said. She said her Japanese nature in her doesn't like debt, and so she tries to not have debt as much as possible. So very little of their revenue is actually going to debt, and they're hardly paying any taxes. And you know why? It's because they're considering interest payments to the community as a cost of service. And so anyone who's run a business, when you have cost of service, you don't pay taxes on that because, well, how are you going to pay taxes on something that you don't have? Because you're paying money for the cost of service. So they pay very little taxes, and the rest of it really then just goes to the overhead, which is like their rent, their employees, and then whatever remainder of that is their net profit. Right. So why is this? Why do I show this figure? Well, it's important to know because when you buy CEL token, this is the capital stack that you're owning or participating in.
Right.
The yellow part that I just highlighted here, and there's a word that I don't like that I hope that we progress from in the crypto space, which is altcoin, because altcoin was such a 2015, 2016 word, because there are so many different types of coins these days, and they all have very different functions. Like people still call Ethereum an altcoin, but it really isn't. It's like a whole category of its own. And CEL token is in a similar type of vein. It's a whole different category of tokens, which some people are calling hybrid securities.
Yeah, I mean myself. I mean, this is just like a dumb little name I've given it, but I've been calling these tokens income tokens or yield.
Yeah, exactly. Income tokens.
Yield, yeah, income tokens or yield tokens. Well, like it's more like yield tokens or income tokens because it's actually right. Then I guess a yield token would be something a little more different. That'd be a little more degenerate in my brain.
Yield tokens, income tokens. I call them security tokens or pass-through tokens,
Right.
because the platform generates revenue. Like Celsius generates real money, right? And a portion of that money is passed through us through the CEL token in the form of CEL token buybacks. And in this case, if you look at the capital stack, right, 35% about of all of Celsius's revenues goes to us CEL token holders. That's what you're owning. And then, of course, if you have BTC and the other stuff, you're getting another 45%. But so when you hold CEL token, this is what you're owning, and it's important to know what you own when you're investing. You're not investing in just some kind of vaporware. You're actually owning something here, and it's real money that's being generated by the company.
Correct.
The
chat says you sound great on 2x. Some guys started the stream late and are listening to it on fast mode. Catch up.
I watch all of my videos at 2x. I can't stand 1x. Yeah,
I have to listen to it on 1x because I love listening to like changes in people's voices. That's that.
I see. So you like to hear the tone changes.
I liked hearing tone changes because I pattern recognized in terms of like. So if I literally I was reaching you as a token, I would listen to a ton of your content essentially, and learn your tonality, and I can essentially figure out when something's different in terms of where you're acting on a video or something. So if something, I can almost tell eventually if something's bothering you. So then I can tell like, oh shoot, he's under stress. I need to short this tone real quick. No, but
I feel like I need to learn your people skills DCC, because I feel like my wife always tells me like I don't give her enough attention. I just don't know when to give her attention. Anyway, I need to learn your skills.
You can never give a girl enough attention, dude. It is an endless drug for them. Like you can give them all your attention to the point where like you lose your house and everything like that, and you just lose the woman and stuff. It's just that there is a limit to like, I mean, there's a balance of like you're literally not paying attention to her. Of course, that's bad, obviously. But there's also too where like they're just like women just bitch because they like bitch. It might be my girl saying things. All women without fail do this. Without fail.
Well, yeah, I want to stay married, so I give her all the attention that she needs.
Oh no, of course, but yeah, don't no rugs here, man.
Yeah, but that meme with like the guy in the cell phone and he's in bed with this girl and then he has his crypto on his phone and he's that's so real, man. It's so real.
my favorite one is like we're the couple's in the bed, right, and like the guy's like turned around super concerned, and the wife's just like, he's probably thinking about some other chick, dude. All right, so if I throw in like $10,000 into this token, this price right here, and then it goes up to 3 cents, that's the 30x. If it goes to a penny, that's still a 10x. Fuck, I'll take it. That's literally me in the nighttime when I'm thinking like, if I ape this money into this token at this price, at this valuation, and then news comes out, and then it continues its current growth rate and stuff, that'll be an 8x. Shit, you know
what? So yeah, give your significant other enough attention. So let's do some quick moon math here. Yeah. So let's assume, right, Celsius has $38 billion in net deposits by the end of 2021, which I gave a case for why that might be. This potentially translates to about $13 million in sell buyback pressure every week. And this is what we're going to do so the reason that we do valuation models is because we use them as gut checks, and we're trying to use them to give us floor pricing. This could potentially give us a price floor of around 26 bucks. And if you fully dilute this, it's about $19 billion, or based on our circulating market cap, that's about $12 billion.
Right.
And if we were to look at that today, that brings us to the top 20. Now, DCC, I like how you do your way of doing moon maths by kind of like what's BTC price going to be, and then apply multiple to ETH, and then apply multiple to altcoin. So I'm kind of curious, like, how do you see this?
In terms of what, like, to see Celsius reach this level of market? Well, to tell you the truth, like, this is a top token in my head. Like, honestly, this is Cell token, and the Cell token company is so undervalued. Like, there's a big dislocation in the market. Like, once the market actually figures out where Celsius should be, it is a top 10. And what's a top 20 project? Top 10 it can be, but it would just need more. It just, if the market truly realized what Celsius was, and then of course then the numbers in terms of how much people were on it reflected it, then it could be somewhere in the lower, it's somewhere in probably 8 to 9, 8 to 10 in terms of market cap. And honestly, it should be like a top 5 cryptocurrency or something like that. It's that crazy. That's like, this is the central bank of crypto, basically, in my head. But of course, the market's not going to see it that way. So I've just got to be realistic, but it should be top 20 for sure.
I think so as well. And like, the good thing about holding Cell token is, we don't know yet how it's going to perform in the bear market, but it always feels good to know that you're holding on to something that has real stuff behind it, right? You're actually participating in how well the company does. And if history is anything, Celsius actually did quite well in the bear market as far as a company. Right. So they're not going to leave, right? If they're going to be around here for the next 5-10 years, the bear market's not going to phase them.
Right. And this is actually, so before we move on and stuff, because this is something that I get asked like all the time, right? Is what do you personally, I mean, what is your personal opinion of what the Cell token will do in the bear market? Because there's some people, I'm not under this impression, but there's some people that say it won't even drop 50%. What is your thoughts on that? I would love to hear that.
Yeah, here's my kind of opinion. So in the bear market, or maybe before the bear market, all the smart guys are going to start rotating their risk-on assets to risk-off, so usually stable coins, right? And I don't think that they'll be moving those risk-off assets out of the platform. I think they're going to be keeping them in Celsius and earning 10 or 13% yield. So basically, the AUM is not going to change much. And that also means that probably the Cell token buyback number is going to stay relatively stable, assuming you've got people still earning in Cell. So that's going to continue to put a lot of buy pressure on the token. And I think it's going to perform well.
I believe so too, but I do believe that. So this is maybe where me maybe disagree a little bit, is like people are fucking emotional animals, and that is what you said right there was probably one of the most rational things. Like, that's actually something I'm gonna be doing. Like, I'm gonna be holding quite a lot of stables on Cell token on the Celsius app. I'm sorry. And obviously with Cell Swap, eventually on, I'll just be drip dropping that into my Cell token as the Cell token price decreases over time, as sort of a dollar cost average. So I'll be using my interest payments on my stable coins to buy me more Cell token. And then once I think the Cell token price has dropped up enough, then I'll start really laddering in actual principal into the position to buy a significant amount of the token, or equity as well if it's available in the secondary market. But a lot of people aren't as rational. I think what's going to happen is they're going to take their money off the app, a good portion of it, as well as just people are getting scared and sell, discouraged. And then obviously we do have some of the we do have the hodlers in this community. So this group of people who are on the Celsius app, at least the ones currently, are outperformers or outliers in this sort of population of like cryptocurrencies. But still, the market going down 80% plus, or especially 90% plus on altcoins, is really going to fucking scare and hurt people to the point where like they may leave stables on there, but I think you'll see much less cryptocurrency deposits, and then eventually those will flow eventually back into the Cell app. So it's going to be this whole thing where like they take it off the app and then eventually tiptoe it back into Cell token, I think. But I still do believe like there's going to be an 80% correction on the Cell token. But I don't know.
I think it's possible. So we can actually run the numbers and see like what happens if let's say that event occurs. The one way you can think about it is like Celsius didn't even have a fraction of this amount of AUM in 2020, in the beginning of 2020. And with whatever little AUM they had, they were still able to move the Cell token price, every little bit, right? All the way into where we are today. If they continue to have $40 billion in AUM in the bear market, which I think is still possible because you consider all the institutional clients and things of that nature, the amount of sell pressure on such a small market cap is just going to sustain it. It's going to keep it up. It's going to prop it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I do recognize that the 80% correction is within the realm of possibility. And honestly, if there's an 80% correction, and the US earn and sell is active by then, you better bet I'm going to be dollar cost averaging into Cell token.
Oh my. No,
I'm aging in.
I'm still going to say this. Look, Celsius is still going to be the better performing, like outside of maybe like what's another one? Maybe like a Vesper. I think Celsius do better because because Celsius is more centralized, actually, and will be able to do sort of like preventative measures and actually than maybe like a Vesper, which is a little more decentralized. But I think Celsius and the same thing. You saw the same thing with BNB. And any of these any token that have basically any cryptocurrency that actually had a business in the background, an actual business, they actually performed better in the bear market. Didn't mean that they didn't go down in value, but then they recovered more quickly and then actually popped off faster as well. But I do notice with these business cryptos is that once they hit they bottom quicker and then they pop from the bottom and they actually do a couple multiples and then essentially from there they have this huge lag period. And I noticed that even on Binance token and stuff, and then KuCoin shares and what else? Oh, there wasn't that many business tokens back in the day. I mean, that's pretty much the only business tokens that were back in 2017.
Yep.
Were pretty much just Binance and KuCoin shares, I think.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly right. And I just saw someone in the chat, an 80% correction from $26 is still $5 sell.
Yes, sir.
And remember, you're earning 5% on this Cell token, and if you plan to hold this token long, another thing I like about Cell token is like, on one hand, we want it to pump, right? We do, but on the other hand, we also kind of want to pump it with the fundamentals. And the reason for that is, number one, we don't get big drawdowns, and also we give people opportunity to continue to dollar cost average. And honestly, if we see an 80% correction, that's not good for anybody. It's not good for customers, especially, and potentially that might hurt customers, right? You hold this thing and drop 80%, you're like, what the heck? Why am I using Celsius? What we really want to see is like gradual growth, gradual customer acquisition. Everybody gets to ride the train over the next, 3 to 5 years, and everyone's happy. And that's literally the best thing for everybody. We do not want to see a huge pump and an 80% correction. We want to see gradual fundamental growth.
Right.
But that being said, a 5x this year is still well within the realm of possibility.
I'm a tad bit more bullish, but
yeah,
I know.
I'm sorry, man. I'm a bear. I'm sorry.
No, I know, but I hope I'm right, and I think you hope I'm right too.
I think we all hope that you're right.
Yeah.
So, so someone was like, "Oh, how about we talk about the other stuff that affects Cell token price?" Because what I just showed you is kind of a quantitative way for looking at intrinsic value for Cell token. The fact of the matter is, in any liquid market, there's a lot of other factors that affect Cell token price, right, which could materially affect what our end of year price might be. So there's some price positive. I'm not going to list everything, but I just have a handful here. We've got like, price positive. So the Bitcoin and Ethereum all-time highs. We all probably would agree that all altcoins in the market are attached to these two coins somehow, some way.
Yeah.
We've also got the equity round, and Alex has said multiple times that one of the lead investors
Could you
is a
continue
big
on
guy.
for 1 second? I got you can continue on. I'm sorry. I've got someone in my front door.
Yeah. I'll keep going.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And then Alex has said that there's going to be a big US investor, an Asian, and a European investor. There's obviously the credit card, the in-app swaps, the sell token deployment, and then the onboarding of major social media influencers. There are some price negative things. We've got, I think the most obvious one, the whale selling, which everyone has been noticing recently. I can promise you it has not been Miguel. It also hasn't been me, and I'm not even a whale. And there's other things like hacks and competition. So all these things will affect price at the end of the day as well. It's a little harder to model what these things may be because we don't have a predictive, we don't have something to predict what these may be in the future, simply because a lot of these are qualitative rather than quantitative. And even if they were quantitative, I just don't have data to suggest what these numbers would be in the future. So we do have to consider these as affecting price, but I'm not including them in the model because I don't have good data for them, or I don't have data for them at all.
Okay, I'm back.
So, going back, I was just showing them some things that may affect price in the positive and the negative direction, and I'm not including them in the model in part because they're qualitative data points. Like we don't have any data for them, or I don't have good data for them, like whale selling. I just don't know what that's going to look like in the future.
I personally think Celsius doesn't have any competition this cycle. Next cycle it will, actually, because with scaling of layer 2. So, but other than that, yeah, hacks and whale selling definitely in terms of the price negative.
Yeah.
Price positive.
Probably whale selling is like number one, honestly. Right? There's
100%.
people that are sitting on like 20 billion% gains.
Definitely 20.
Yeah. So these are all right things that we have to keep in the back of our mind when we do our price predictions.
Right.
That being said, one thing we do have a lot of data for that I am including in the model is kind of like where Bitcoin might end 2021.
Right.
And there's like 100 different ways where you can kind of predict where this may be. You can use stock to flow. You can use various indicators. One that I really like to use, and I don't actually see too many people talk about, is options open interest. So a quick primer on options. It's basically a bet on where you think something may be in the future. Call options are you bet that the price will be higher than this number, and then put options are you bet that the price will be lower than this number. And open interest is essentially how many people are betting at that particular strike price. So if you look at the options expiring on December 31st, 2021, you can see that there are 9,500 open interest call option put options, and then 14,000 open interest on call options. So definitely a bullish sign. So more calls and puts. And then if you look at the concentration of the calls, you can see that they are, so you've got a big spike here at 64,000.
Yeah.
And then you've got some people that are betting, 120, 140, and even 200, 300, 400. Okay.
I got one at 120.
You got one at 120? Okay.
Yes, sir. End of year. Yes, sir.
I think, if I would actually put one at 200 and close it early, because the delta on these really, really far out of the money options, maybe 120 is actually better. But anyway, I might do a 200. I might close it early. I wouldn't hold it till the end, but I'd close it early.
You close it early because you're so in the money already. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And then you look at the put options, and you can kind of see a concentration kind of towards the 30 to 60 range. Right. So even the bears don't even want to put out of the money call options right now. Right. Does that make sense? Like, they don't even want to. They want to say like, oh yeah, Bitcoin will be under 60,000, which is in the money right now. They don't want to say like, oh, Bitcoin's being like 40,000 because that's out of the money, and they don't want to risk being out of the money at the end of the year. So definitely a bullish market still.
Definitely. Is that Tone Vase betting at 12,000?
I don't know.
Jesus.
This guy here, I hope that they had put this at the beginning of the year, and then now they're just collecting. They're just collecting. But and this guy here, I hope they did not put that at the beginning of the year, because now they'd be hurting a lot.
A lot. Wow.
But anyway, if you look at the open interest on the options market right now, actually, there's not a whole lot of volume at December 31st. There's still obviously a lot of volume in April. And even in April, kind of the concentration of call options is around 70K. So very bullish market.
So what these call options are they mostly just for FTX or something like that? Or because obviously, have you ever used Hedgic? It's so trash. So trash.
I've never used it.
Trash. Don't use it. It's terrible. It's until they upgrade.
I actually don't know where this website collects all their data from.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, but yeah, don't use Hedgic. Not yet. Eventually, Hedgic was supposed to be like you could use like put in call options on Ethereum, and they're so terribly priced. Like you just lose money. Like it's everyone. All the research I've done on it, it's trash. Just total garbage.
Really?
Yeah, it's bad. Don't do it.
All right, I'm not gonna do it. I may, call options are selling naked puts is a great strategy in the bear market, by the way. It's like a way to yield and get cheap BTC, for anyone interested. Let's see. Okay, so what you can do with this options data, and this is just one model, but you can actually produce a price probability chart with these open interests data. And kind of this is where I see BTC kind of being end of year. You see a lot of density here in the 80 to 100K range. And then there's obviously some mega bulls at the, here, but I'm not sure if that's reasonable. So I would say BTC lands around here, which is where most of the density is. And so let's kind of put all the puzzle pieces together. So we've got some quantitative input variables that we can put into the model. So we've got active users, we've got net deposits, and then we've got weekly buybacks, and these are fundamental to the project.
Right.
And then we've also got something that kind of measures market sentiment and volatility, which is kind of the BTC price. There are some missing variables in our model, which I spoke about earlier. Like we can't put qualitative variables into the model. So, and these are obviously, a lot of them are price positive. And we also can't put things like whale selling. We just don't know what that's going to be like in the future. And we also don't know how crypto hype will play out in the summer, especially. So kind of knowing what our inputs are and knowing what our limitations are, and we put, and we can understand that all models have missing variables. So I built this model and I back tested it for the past 180 days. And historically, it stayed at about a 20% deviation relative to the actual sell price. So the white line is our model price.
Right.
And then the blue line is the actual sell token price. And what you can see is that on average, you get, the model is about plus or minus 20%. But when you get above 20%, and you hit, in this case, like when we had the January roundup, we hit 70% or 80% deviation. And what happens is the price retraces back to the model. In March, when we were telling everybody buy, sell under 5, right? It was way under the model. And then again, the deviation started to go above 20%, and then boom, went right back to the model. So historically, the model's been about plus or minus 20% accurate. And when you kind of deviate more than that, the price retraces back to the model, whether up or down, right?
Right.
So the model's been, it's I wouldn't say it's accurate, but it is what it is, given what we have. And so now you can forecast this model, given what you think its accuracy is, and you can produce. This is the 20% deviation I was talking about. And you can produce a probability density chart, which takes all those inputs I shared earlier, and again doesn't account for a lot of variables. But my model says that we've got about a 95% chance that we're going to end the year above $20.
I agree.
Yeah. So, that's a 4x, right? That's
Yeah.
nothing to laugh about. I know it's crypto, but it's nothing to laugh about. And there's still quite a lot of upside. And the model says that this would be accounted for in the model. So like a $40 sell is well within the model. And technically, if I wanted to be ultra precise, a $0 sell is still within the model, but it's like a 0.00 with like e to the negative 50% probability. So it's still within the model. So that's why we like to do things in a quantitative way, because the reason that we build models is we have to think about our investments in a non-emotional way. And the more that you can put them to data and kind of see where they may be in the future, it kind of gives you confidence in what you're holding.
Right.
And you don't, sell something too early because it's emotional, and you don't buy something out of hype. So this is why I like to do models. And it's a good gut check. And I've got a little statement here that I picked up from a random Twitter post that I actually really like. I wish I knew the guy, but
random Twitter post.
yeah, it's really wise. It's really wise. Big money is made by being at the right time and place. The easiest way to do that is to go to the right place and wait. Many people take the opposite tact, which is they keep trying to chase the thing of the moment. They focus on the time part more than the place. So if there's anything that we ought to take out from this call, is be in the right place. And in my mind, sell token is the right place. Don't chase the time.
Right. I had a joke, but it was gonna ruin it.
that was pretty good closure, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty good closure. But spin plates, you guys. Anyway, spin a couple plates.
So yeah, so that's the end of my slide deck. If you want to reach me, I'm on Twitter at Joshua TJO, or you can read some of my Medium articles. I take another approach to evaluating Cell Token based on Celsius's revenues, and kind of like, as you saw in my earlier slide, I'm a buy and hold investor,
Right.
and that's done pretty well for me. So I kind of take another approach to evaluate Cell Token over a 3 to 5 year time horizon. All my work is free. Always happy to collaborate and reach out. Really appreciate DCC having me on this evening.
Oh no, for sure, man. I'd love to have you on Moon Gang and stuff, so we can do this further and stuff. Have Wasabi and Charlie as well input some stuff if you have the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Wasabi. He's a great guy, and Charlie too.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get the legendary Plan C. He was retweeting us right now like crazy. My Twitter was blowing up because how much he was retweeting us. I was like, oh shit. But
Plan C, we shouldn't ape out of Doge, sell and ape into Doge. Well, I mean, if you're up, like, no, I'm just kidding. No, you should not ape into Doge.
You want to know something funny? Like I at one point I owned 6 million Doge in the bear market, and it makes me smile. It makes me feel warm inside. No matter what, I would have made the millions. Whichever strategy. This is amazing. This is how amazing crypto is.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, I used to be really salty about people who made gains on like stuff that moved that shouldn't be moving. But I've kind of come to accept, like, you just got to respect the hustle.
Right.
And like, however you find alpha, you got to find it. For me, it's quant. For another person, maybe it's like happening to know the right people and joining the hype train before it runs. And you just got to respect that. You just got to respect the hustle.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it just get the cookie, no matter what. Just find your way to do it. I mean, persistence. I mean, I forgot where this is a quote as well, and I wish I could remember who said this, but like, it may have been a book or something, but he's like, in my life, every person that I thought was smart at some point made it. It may have taken them a while, but they eventually got it, basically. So like eventually, like that's the same thing with crypto. With somebody that I really think is smart and stuff, and like, oh, this dude, like Wasabi or Charlie or you or something, like let's just say you weren't a millionaire, you're gonna be a millionaire. You're going to make it. It's because at some point, but I think in the context of this, it was like a business. Like somebody kept trying like to fail, like with startups. Like that person in that startup was so smart, but he kept failing. At some point, he's gonna knock it out of the park. Even if it takes him until he's 30 or 40, he's going to make it.
It's so true. Really, in investing, like it's finding a consistent strategy that you can believe in. Maybe that strategy is follow DCC for the rest of your life, and that that works. Whatever it is, you got to find a strategy that it works, and then just be consistent at it. And the reality is, the strategy may not work all the time, but you just have to hope that it's greater than 51%. And
Right.
if that works, then you're beating the market.
Okay.
I actually think following DCC for the rest of your life for advice and all that stuff is actually a pretty good strategy, by the way. So yeah.
Thanks for the plug, dude. Hopefully, I'm not lagging out too much. The CIA and the FBI essentially have always tapping my internet lines.
I'm getting a chance to read some of the comments here. Good to see Plan C on when sell 14K. Hey man, it's actually not within there is a non-zero probability that sell hits 14K within our lifetime. So even if you decide to divest out of sell, you got to have the moon bag.
Gotta have the moon bag, and I've taught these guys. Hopefully, they're paying attention about the moon bag, but keeping something. Can you imagine?
Kojav's like, now I'm caught up.
Can you imagine keeping 1,000 cell tokens for a decade? Can you imagine how much that'd be worth? Ooh.
Let's see, 1,000 cell tokens at 5% per year for a decade, and let's say it stays at $5 forever. You would have about I think $75,000 in just interest alone. So yeah,
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby, right? That's really good.
Yeah, but it ain't staying at $5. I'll say that.
It is not staying at $5. And you actually said something the other day, DCC, which I actually want to highlight in the stream, which is like, I think you called it like the dividend interest multiplier or something like that.
The dividend multiplication number.
Yeah, exactly. And basically the concept is like at a certain point, the interest that you're earning on the token that you've invested in is paying out more than your principal.
Correct.
When you get to that golden legendary moment, you really don't ever want to sell your bag. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty much a paid off bag. You can essentially at that point divest it, at least, or if you wanted to, you could literally take out your entire initial capital and basically have a risk-free bag that you can hold forever. This is actually a strategy. Actually, Wasabi does it naturally all the time. He does, and it's another way of why I evolved like strategies like something called the rule of 2 and the rule of 3, where typically on very risky assets, when you get a 2x, you essentially should at least take your principal out of the project. Where you have like projects more like, I would say, more medium capped and good projects, sort of like a Celsius or something, or like or I don't know, what's another good token? Like a Rari or something like that, right? Or maybe a Rari's a rule of 2 or whatever, right? Is when you get a 3x, you should probably take your initial capital out and then essentially have a de-risk bag there, so you're less emotional about it as well, so you can hold for longer. Because the less emotional you are, the more of a better essentially move you end up making on that bag. And then 2, you can apply that capital over to something else and create another opportunity for yourself. And hopefully your judgment's good on the next project. If not, you still got the other stuff, so you're good.
Exactly. Yeah, and it really is important to invest, I think, from a position of safety, and de-risking. If that's how you invest from a position of safety, then do it. Yeah, as you said, investing from a position of safety just prevents you from making really silly decisions. I've invested from a position of unsafety before, and that's when I was like all in on Tesla, and they were about to go bankrupt. I was like, I never want to go through that feeling ever again. So, yeah.
Plan C, do you want to come on the stream? Let's see what he says. No. He's like, I'm in the float tank, dude.
I find my alpha by dropping acid and then opening Coinbase. Hey, man, as long as it has a greater than 51% probability, then and you do it consistently, you'll make it.
Yeah, OGN, baby. OGN, baby. No, uni is such a great deal. Like I keep harping on uni, but it's just a moment in time where it's just cheap right now, and it's going. There's such a like a one-time event with an upgrade in a bullish market, and two, it's super accessible across all every any American, any person around the world can buy it. It's on every exchange basically.
Yeah, I think uni is it's going to be a game changer. Like if not, whether it dumps next cycle is really during the bear market, it's really beside the point. Like it's got 12 employees and it did half the volume of Coinbase, which has 2,000 employees.
Right.
That's just crazy. Anyway.
Yeah.
And plus all the upgrades that are coming. Oh my goodness. It's going to be, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of great stuff. How much are you expecting for uni? At least a 3x at least on it. I mean, I expect it probably in May. I mean, this is where speculation is, but like hopefully, I think we'll see uni for a short time hit the number 3 spot in market cap, actually, before the hype just kind of dies down, probably at the end of May or into June, probably. When I think some of the hype will probably go towards right like Kusama or Dot at that point.
I would listen to DCC. He knows what he's talking about. I don't hold uni, so I can't say anything about it.
Yeah. Synthetics will probably be a really good play towards the end of May because then there's going to be the whole optimistic rollup hype, and then people are going to be like, "Wait, who does optimistic rollups? Oh, synthetics! Boom, there you go." Oh, and then Aave too. Aave will probably catch a little pump off that as well.
And guess what platform holds all these tokens?
Celsius.
Yeah, man.
Finally, the best advice right here. Sell the wife, get uni. There we go.
I joined late. Did you guys cover SNX? We did not really.
Yeah. It's a great platform. It's the prompt. Look, what's hurting the RC20 tokens right now is just the gas fees. It's like making it impossible. Like the reason. So any RC20 token that's on a major exchange is holding up in price compared to its competitors, unless it's like a really like I'm seeing like the mid cap stuff that's between like $250,000 to about $1 billion. That stuff's kind of underperforming, and then you've got some of the little bit higher market cap stuff that's on Coinbase that's holding up at least, and then you have like the really low cap dog shit pumping like crazy, just because people are speculating because they're just throwing YOLO money into something.
Yeah, you guys had put out a video this morning, right, about one of your degen coins?
Oh yeah, RGT. Yeah, I've been really looking. I've been looking into that coin for like months now already. Like I bought some at $13, 13 and 15. That's my cost basis for the token, $13, $14.
Yeah, I looked at them probably right around the same time frame that you were. I was looking between I was bouncing between Rari and Vesper, and then yeah, I just chose my bag on Vesper.
Oh my god, shit! I just bought both.
I was like, my investment thesis for Vesper is really simple. If Celsius doesn't make it, Vesper will, and the reason for that is because Vesper is fully decentralized, and if for whatever reason Celsius gets their overhead just can't compete with all these decentralized platforms, then Vesper is going to be the one that takes the bag for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's kind of why I bet on both. And something that I'm not liking in the world right now is there's too many governance tokens now, and they're trash for the most part. and there's never going to be any income on those governance tokens in the first place. And then two, it's like sometimes I wonder on some of these platforms, because some of them do generate yield, where the yield is actually going, into whose pocket. It's going somewhere, because there's platforms out here that have that generate yield, but then the governance token doesn't get any of that at all, nor in buybacks or anything. And then the cash must be just accruing to team members or something, or the incentives. It's very strange.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I feel like in my mind, a governance token without a clear, like, as you say, a yield or income token, like, governance is not enough incentive for anyone to hold a token, I think. I mean, arguable, but
it would take so the platform would have to be big enough for like a Uniswap. Like if Uniswap even got even bigger for next cycle, then it would be in some even small countries or maybe banks. Like it would hold some clout, or it would have to get like the what it's controlling has to be in like immense.
Yeah,
for it
right,
to make sense.
Exactly.
But for most little bullshit little things, it's like not really. It's trash.
Like what value do I get from controlling this small cap, right? It's like, yeah, sure, you're dominant governance. You're the king of, the dunk pool, so whatever.
No, yes, it is. It is a governance token. Yep, definitely it is. But it's a speculative. I mean, we're just speculating on it, really. And two, there's going to be supposedly future upgrades. Of course, false promises, basically, that the tokenomics are going to be improved on the RGT token, which I think they are actually, but it's speculation. So at a certain point, you just got to swing the bat, Obviously, there is projects that have a little more, like a Vesper is probably a little more easier to invest in, but that's speculation. Plus, I like the kids. I like the guys. They're cool. It's a good story.
It's always good to invest in the young guys. It makes they become better adults in the future, hopefully.
Definitely.
But yeah, Vesper. The only thing with Vesper is if anyone's looking into it, just I would look into their emission schedule. Know like how much inflation there's going to be for the next period of few months, and just kind of back that into your investment.
It's quite high. Yeah, it's like 7 or 8% per month. I think it's pretty high. But I mean, there's other tokens that are even higher. Shout out to all my SafeMoon people. Safe Mars, Safe Moon, Safe Doge, whatever the fuck, man. People got wrecked. Oh boy. I bought the other day like $50 just for the cause, just for you guys, so you don't have to.
I wanted to ask. I'm reading the chat here. Is there anything you guys have as far as questions or comments, or you can even debate me if you like on the data or how I'm analyzing the data, or
there was one thing. There was one question I saw like on the slides. Like, what did you use to calculate density? The density in terms of why it ended up right there at like $40 to $50.
This one?
Yeah, let me pull it up. Sorry.
That's such a great question. Is it streaming now? The screen?
Yeah, there. Yeah, it's full screen.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, great. So, great question. So, there's kind of a lot of different ways that you can calculate probability. One of the easiest ways is using a bell curve. So I showed you earlier, right, that the model historically has about an average standard deviation of 20%.
Right.
So if you take kind of like what the model says it's supposed to be on a pinpoint, it says it's supposed to be at around $45. But we know that historically the model has about a 20% deviation. So you can bring this out 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviations, then 3 standard deviations, and then this is where you get the range. So that's one way. So you can kind of do a bell curve, and this is like the easiest way to illustrate it. Because another way that you can do it is based on a Monte Carlo simulation. And what I would do there, and I don't I don't have the chart here, but what you could do is you kind of want to do a Monte Carlo simulation when one of your input variables has a huge spread, and that spread is not evenly distributed. And as you recall, one of the input variables that I have is Bitcoin price, and that has a huge spread, and the probability across the spread is uneven. This is where a Monte Carlo simulation would be much better to potentially forecast what sell price might be.
Right.
I didn't show that here just because it gets really technical and much harder to digest.
Got it. Yeah,
But that being said, the other parts of the model, like these parts, so the active users, the net deposits, the weekly buybacks, those are pretty predictable based on historical data. So a normal distribution or a bell curve distribution is okay to use for those. The only one I would argue is not good is a BTC price.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can just fluctuate or crash pretty much. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if BTC goes to 20K end of year, I don't know if Cell Token's going to hold a $4 peg.
So what would you? I mean, but what if? Because I mean, honestly, end of year we're probably going to have like 6-figure BTC. I mean, that's we're going to get 6 figures this year. Like fucking almost like that's like 90% chance on that actually.
Let's you know what? I'm gonna pull up my calculator here and let's do some live moon math.
Ooh, my favorite. Okay, let's go.
All right, so I love Excel. All right, so oh my goodness. Okay, so let's give a target BTC price.
Let's end of year. Let's put 120.
120.
Yeah, 120,000.
All right, so let's see 120. Why is all my text up? All right, so how many Cell Token? How much BTC do you think that we'll have in the app?
There's going to be a range, but I mean, bare minimum $250,000. But I'm leaning more towards probably like closer to 350, 400,000. But let's put 400,000.
I'm actually curious. How did you kind of come up with that number?
I was just looking at the current like growth trajectory in terms of like what. So like if it just kept it up, we're just like right now we're at 80,000, and we have like a lot of the year left over. So it's really not that big of a stretch to like just basically like do like a 2.5x essentially to hit $250,000. So we still have a third. We still have like what we're barely into the second quarter, so we still have 3 quarters left. So just going on the current growth numbers and how fast the market's moving, so I would say $250,000 BTC is probably the conservative number. It might be like 280, 320, something like that. But as this thing gets more and more popular and people just start saying, yo, fuck all these other apps and stuff, it starts just getting more and more of the BTC on the app. You know,
I think what you're saying is possible. I was actually looking at our BTC growth as well, and at first I didn't believe it, but I think 250K sounds like a pretty good number.
Yeah. Of course, it can always be off a little bit by like 20K BTC, but I'm leaning like, okay, at 400 was really the top end in terms of what I really thought, right? But 320, 340, of course, yeah, it could actually hit that because the last 3 months of the year when this thing hits 120 and this thing goes bananas, man, we can hit some crazy stuff. You know, and then that's of course not counting all the other Ethereum we have as well, because ETH will probably be sitting in like 6. Yeah, actually no wait.
So check this out. Historically, about 30% of our AUM is in BTC.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can do then is, and you've probably done this math, but I'm just doing it live for everybody.
Right.
So this is what our total AUM might be end of year, given different BTC app and BTC in the app.
Right.
You might have $145 billion.
Yeah.
Or a bear case of $90 billion. Okay, now let's give some color, right? Where that is. Oh, it's not good. Okay, so 100. What was the number?
Oh, it's 145 billion.
All right, so check this out. We're right here. We're top 20 bank.
All day, all day, all day.
We've crossed the Federal Credit Navy
More
Federal
than Morgan
Credit
Stanley.
Union. There we go. Oh, we passed Morgan Stanley. Discover. Some big names here. And you know, this is crazy. Look, this is their number of accounts.
That's for this year. That's for this year is what I'm calculating. If this market, there's a really high possibility we hit into next year. So we're talking, we're gonna hit that 400, 500,000 range. So like this ain't even like we're cracking. Let's see. Where's the capitalization? We're cracking 13, baby. Shit, we're coming for Goldman Sachs.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go.
You know, and this is crazy. Look how many customers they have. They only have. I was actually expecting a much bigger number, but they only have 1.8 million customers.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna crack 1.8 million customers next year.
Yeah.
And let's say Mark.
And those are wealthy customers too. That's wealthy customers. That's, you know.
Let's see. I don't actually know what Goldman Sachs home. Oh, hello.
Huh, look at that.
114 billion. All right, so let's do some min math, yeah?
Yeah.
So
that PE ratio is kind of low. It was only like 8.34 PE.
Yeah, banks are pretty bad. And
yeah.
Goldman really hasn't grown much. So this is about normal, I think.
Yeah.
They kind of the bigger banks kind of their market cap is equal to their AUM ish. So let's say more, let's do the same for Celsius, right?
Right.
Well, and then how many tokens are there? There's like 650.
Some change, I think. So let me check.
Or 695, I think. 695,000, I think.
Yeah, there's 695 and some change. Wait. What? Okay, now we.
Wait, no, it's million, right? It's millions, right? It's million.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Bruh, I was like, what the fuck? Okay.
So, yeah, this is fully diluted.
Okay. So you see my 120 number don't look so crazy anymore. You see what I mean?
You know, it's well within the realm of possibility, guys.
You see, like this Monte Carlo brain of mine fucking hits on the mark. I'm telling you, bro. To the moon, baby. Shoo! Off the dome, son.
So yeah, I 130, 167, 209. It's, you know, the math checks out. It's within the realm of possibility.
Of course, the guys in the chat are like, I like the other numbers better.
Okay, let's just remove those 3 zeros. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, there we go.
I'll remove the pennies from there. Yep, there we go, guys. This is how we get there. So we got to reduce our. What we got to do is a token burn. We got to remove 600 million tokens from token burn.
We have to Wi-Fi this shit.
You know, actually, Alex is considering a token burn. He said that on exchange listings to possibly do a token burn, then like make it part of the deal that they burn some of the tokens. So, I mean, they'd have to hit a lot of exchanges, but yeah.
Damn. I mean, but look. So okay. Realistically, right? That 250 number, I'm telling you, we're hitting this year. Like 1 billion%, we're gonna hit that quarter of a million BTC this year. It's really, if I'm just trying to be really realistic, we're gonna hit somewhere in between those two numbers. So it could be like 299, something like that. So, but That's the bear case, yeah. And honestly, like I've been saying this even since December of last year. That I said this I said this on the 24-hour live stream that we were going to hit like 120 for the next year, but honestly, I felt that it was low. So I would honestly like the number I had in my head was like 160 to 180. Honestly, 200 does seem high to me. Honestly, I don't think we're going to hit 200, but like 160 to 180. But it's just like I was waiting for more and more data, and then like with this data along with it, I think I would need maybe like just one more month of data, and I think I could actually get pretty fucking close on where we're going to end up on Celsius.
And here's another piece of alpha.
Sure.
We don't know exactly when Celsius is going to decide to go public.
Right.
But there has been some speech through the grapevine, and actually Alex himself said this just a few weeks ago, that it won't be this year, but next year is a possibility.
Right.
So
do you know that's actually here's some alpha as well, right? With that is one of the things why me and Charlie are so bullish on terms of like why this bull market is going to continue is like just about every company in their mama is IPOing next year. So it's within crypto's company's best interest to keep the prices pumped up. So maybe even if the market's lag behind, I think they'll pump cash in the market to pump it up so the VCs can cash out next year.
Everybody's going to do what Coinbase did.
Mm-hmm. That's why it was really important for Coinbase to do well. And I think I don't even know what's the Coinbase price right now actually, but and there might actually even be an airdrop of like we'd get the Coinbase coin, the Series B stock instead of the A. Oh, let's see, 311. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, not too bad. I was actually expecting a much lower drop, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an easy way for someone who wants to like basically the Coinbase is just a really easy way for someone in the boomer finance world to essentially buy the picks and shovels and just buy like, well, I want to have exposure, but the Bitcoin stuff's a little too risky. But I'll buy a business where they just buy and sell it, and I just make the in between. Cool exposure. Oh, the Bitcoin ETF. Honestly, I think we're gonna get clarity on the Bitcoin ETF Q1 of next year. Yeah, I mean, we already got it. I mean, there's already like 3 Ethereum ETFs in Canada. I think they just got approved, but that's Canada.
Yeah, we need one in the States. I think we'd get one next year, latest.
Yeah. I mean, that's another speculation of mine why like Celsius is even raising capital in the first place is they're raising they don't need the money, right? So it's all access. It's all for access. Like if you actually track like with the original like I guess they didn't. So here's a really funny thing. So when they decided to raise money for the first round where what's his name? Bitfinex was the lead investor. Tether was the lead investor. When they decided to do that, they did need cash. Actually, I remember hearing about that. They actually didn't need money. By the time that the actual raise was going to happen, they didn't need it anymore.
I see. That actually makes a whole lot of sense because I was looking into their financials, and now that you just told me that, I now I'm clear why.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is like basically us hype boys came into the coin and fucking pumped it up and shit. And, like everyone was going high and more, and the AUM started exploding because like when I first saw Celsius, it was like 29,000 people on it, and then when I started getting into it, it was probably like 91,000 total downloads, total users or whatever on the app. So there was probably like 25,000, 30,000 active wallets probably at the time. That was like May or April of 2020, if I remember those numbers correctly. But during that time, that's when we saw the ramp up and stuff. And then I actually think, I mean, honestly, that was the biggest steal. Bitfinex stole Celsius, that equity. That was a steal of a century. But one thing that Celsius has over a lot of these other DeFi. Here's the shitty thing about DeFi, real DeFi, in terms that they're limited to things on the blockchain. That's actually a limiting
Yes.
factor. That's why Celsius always kicks their fucking ass all the time because,
Yes.
and Celsius has so
You
much. You go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say you need CeFi. You need middleware when you're interacting with a lot of things you still need middleware for. Like you can't do
Right.
everything on the blockchain.
Right.
And that's where Celsius is gonna beat DeFi.
Correct. I really, yeah, and honestly, I can just from what I'm seeing about Celsius, Celsius is fucking amazing for 2 cycles. Amazing. Next cycle, they'll probably start adding equities and bonds, and they'll start earning on other stuff as well, which is going to be really cool too. And I think there might even be a partnership one day with maybe like Kathy, no, what's her name, Caitlin Long's. Caitlin Long has a really interesting sort of company. She has a equities a stock equities company, which it's a bank that holds onto equity where you own it, but instead of being a custodian, they're just like a valet to the equity. So one of the reasons, like, so what, like in crypto, right? If you buy a Bitcoin and you take it off the exchange, you own it, right? But when you buy it on any of these platforms in terms of an equity, like an equity, you buy like a Tesla stock. Like honestly, Joshua, like the way right now you own your Tesla stock, you own it, but you technically don't own it because they're
Yep.
yielding on it and they're repothecating on your stuff illegally.
Yep.
I couldn't believe when I heard that shit. I was like, wait, so they're just taking my fucking stock and not giving me shit? That's bullshit. And that's a huge market for Celsius. Celsius, all they have to do is create a market for the most popular stocks in the world, and basically any stock that starts going on the crypto side and starts like, dude, um, Kathy Woods, wait, is it Kathy Woods? No, Caitlin Long. I'm sorry, Caitlin Long's holding company is one of the first companies to ever do this, where they changed the whole thing from custodian to valet. So they essentially can hold on to like like a coat, right? So if I gave you my stock, like just say about some Tesla on your platform, and it's being custodied by that bank, that stock is, they can only hold it. They cannot yield on it or repothecate it. They can only hold it temporarily. And the minute you ask for it back, they have to give it to you. There's no holding. There's no government intervention. They have to give it to you. That's what's so
Hmm.
fucking awesome. So it's almost like
So do you think
they Bitcoined it a little bit.
that it's in your mind, is it more probable that they hold like stocks in the way that you're describing, or that they hold tokenized forms of the stocks, or not
Uh,
even just stocks, like
it
tokenized forms of everything like
no, no,
gold?
no. Yeah. So what I'm talking about is the first step. What's going to happen is they're going to do that with stocks, with tokens. So they're going to tokenize the equity, but they're going to token. So this is just the first step. So first, the custody of your stock, cool. But then from there, now there's a huge glut of stock. But what ends up happening is that when you start taking stocks away from the market, that the market typically can repothecate in order to be able to borrow on margin or long and stuff, right? So what's going to end up happening with that is that there's going to be a huge demand. And guess what? but what's going to happen is Celsius will be able to say like, "Hey, Caitlin Long or whatever, Kathy Wood or whatever the fuck." I'm so sorry. I'm just like I keep confusing those two ladies, but great ladies, both of them. But what's going to happen is that they're going to, okay, we have the stock, cool. Can we? There's going to be some form where they have that custodian plus a wrapping, a coin wrapper, and I think she's going to do that in the company. So right now it's not in the company right now, but I think that's the future plan. Of course she is, like, of course. So she has a custodian company, and she's just going to tokenize the stock, and then the stock's there with her. So all you have to do is have custody of that token and just go to her, and then you'll get the stock the way it is.
Mm.
And then she's also changing the laws in Wyoming. She just passed today that a DAO is now considered a corporation, I think, or something like that. Let me check.
Interesting.
She
Okay.
just passes today. Like, dude, she's the baddest. She's the baddest chick in all of crypto, dude. She is awesome, dude. She's like doing so much, dude. She's killing it, dude. Like, Caitlin Long is she's awesome. She's like I really respect her, honestly. She's like I really respect like what she's doing right now for crypto. She's amazing, dude. Like let me see if I can find this. Okay, so yeah, so it's official. Wyoming will now recognize DAOs as a new type of LLC effective July 1st. Thank you to legislators and Governor Gordon for building Wyoming's historic inventing of an LLC, which all other states are followed by roughly a decade later. So we're doing it again.
Does it
So,
say anything about like who the owners are?
there probably is some sort of a note. It might be the owners. The owners are essentially governance tokens.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
bruh.
You
I'm
know, it's
telling you.
interesting because, like, technically, right? I guess, I mean, in the States, we were talking about the States here because of Wyoming.
Mhm.
Technically, in the States, any like interest or yield you earn on your tokens that's considered income. And if you own an LLC and your LLC earns income, it's literally that. So like, there's no conflict here. Like, this all just wraps well.
Yeah, and this is why too. Like I'm gonna start rapping, not rapping, but like a, but I'm gonna start. I mean, one of the best things you can do right now is probably start an LLC in Wyoming, and then essentially try to open an account through Celsius through there, and then I'm still trying to figure out if this is actually exactly how it works. But basically, if you do that, you can be tax free for 5 years because of her. She made. I remember I saw her speak in Las Vegas, and she said if you start a cryptocurrency LLC, like a company in Wyoming, that's a cryptocurrency company, and all your revenues for the next 5 years are tax free.
Whoa.
Yeah, for 5 years. But here's the this is what. So I know that part's true, but the problem is I'm trying to see. Okay, where's the honeypot at the end? What's the catch? That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. What I'm still researching, but is I don't know, Brent, but it's that sort of thing.
Interesting. Interesting.
It's just the reason I haven't done it is because one, I haven't sold anything, so I'm fine. But it's more like I'm just trying to figure out like, okay, what's the play here? And then two, you think it's not a magical thing that Wyoming's doing all this cool stuff. Guess what's also in Wyoming? Jackson Hole. Jackson Hole, Wyoming is also the seat is where all the vacation spots and like the seat of power for the fucking Fed as well.
Huh.
So so the Wyoming's capital, what's Wyoming's capital's name? Jesus.
Oh, Winnipeg? No.
No.
Milwaukee, I think.
No.
Oh no,
No.
that's Wisconsin.
That's Wisconsin.
I don't know.
Wyoming's capital, whatever Wyoming's capital is, right? That's essentially becoming one of the fastest growing cities for crypto companies. And of course, right in that same state, it's literally that's literally the Federal Reserve's backyard. Cheyenne. Cheyenne,
Is that like
Wisconsin.
ironic or
No, it's totally on purpose. Like they're jerry rigging the whole thing. So magically, the seat of power of the economic power for the United States is Wyoming in terms of the Fed, obviously not for like states and growing all this stuff, but in terms of where the money is, and then magically, the seat of crypto power is Wyoming again. Totally coincidence. Totally a coincidence. Of course.
Interesting. See, this is why we make a good duo, DCC. These narratives, they don't stick well with me. I can only look at numbers. But you spit these narratives out like you think about them all the time. And I think you do think about them all the time.
Well, yeah, it's just because things just stick out. It doesn't fucking make sense. Like, why the fuck is it like this? This is some bullshit. There's got to be a reason why. And typically, if you think about it in terms of a triad, it's either about money, power, or sex. In one of those three resources, it's either about resources, females, or sex. That counts for both men and female and male and females, and then power. Or yeah, which is almost just really like almost a fusion of the other two, really. So it really just comes down to like money and sex, basically. And if you look at it, both though, I mean, like me and Wasabi were actually making jokes about this like a couple days ago when I stayed up all night because I was researching into one of my favorite coins, and watch this. So okay. So I attribute right now. So okay, so right before we hit the Renaissance, right, there was this whole thing with the printing press that was created, right? And what the printing press did is essentially it let the illiterate actually be able to read. because
Yep.
most books were actually because they're really expensive. They would only essentially print them in Latin, basically, and then doesn't mean that there wasn't books in like English or Italian and stuff, which was more of the common folks language. But you couldn't really mass produce them, and two, the people who were reading in those languages weren't as rich, so they just stuck to Latin for the most part. And then that's why a lot of people didn't have a lot of books. When the printing press came out, essentially they could reprint books in languages most people could understand, and then this caused a fucking learning explosion in those times. Two, but the original story where I got that from was actually from this whole story with Martin Luther, when Martin Luther, so to go back to like taking crypto to that time, right? So one of the big problems that we all have, even me included, is essentially we're all illiterate. We're all illiterate, so we essentially cannot read. And what by reading is, right, we cannot read code for the most part. So because we can't read code or we can't write code, essentially we're essentially in a sort of a hierarchical system where the developers are the priests and we're essentially the sheeple, essentially. So there's a special time and place during the church and stuff where all Bibles were all in Latin, and only the priests or the really rich even knew how to read. The Gutenberg Revolution, sir. So during a time where like the people, so only the priests or people of the clergy or really rich people that essentially could teach their kids essentially to read Latin could read the Bible. So, but most common folk couldn't read the Bible because it was in Latin. So what would happening is that the priests had a lot of power, and what would happen is every 20 years or 10 years, the fucking priest would change the Bible. So actually, the Bible kept changing over time because so if let's just say I was a church and I would send a priest over to a village, right? So like here, Joshua, go over to this village. There's only 300 people there. You're going to be the pastor or whatever, or the priest. Okay, cool. So because nobody in that village could read Latin, but you could read the Word of God. So you were God in the village. So what a priest would end up doing is they would end up fudging things in the Bible, and who could tell you you're wrong? And that's what the priests had so much power and stuff too. And then of course at that time too, they actually could have kids as well. So the priests were kind of like rock stars, and on top of that, they were able to bone a bunch of women and stuff and had a bunch of kids, and eventually, which caused the church to basically say you guys can't have kids anymore because the church was literally going bankrupt. So the reason I bring that part back is that that's kind of what's going on right now, is that basically we're in this point where we haven't had the revolution where we can easily code or read the code because there's no tools right now. So basically whatever the fucking developers tell us, that's what it fucking is, but it's bullshit basically. And I know, like, and my gut feeling is a lot of the stuff, a lot of these developments are going on with Ethereum and like, oh, we're waiting on this and all this stuff. It's all bullshit. We're all waiting on these motherfuckers, and we're being orchestrated and we're being fiddled around by the fucking developers and the money that's backing the developers, because it's all horseshit. Like, I know they got some of this shit already done already, but they're playing a narrative on us, and I could just tell because magically, right, within 2 weeks of the main developer posting something, then all the other developers know about it. So either one of two things happen. Either they're all in on it, or more than likely, what I think is really happening is, it's really like all these priests essentially can read Latin. They can't write it, actually. So I know that's kind of fucked up. So okay. So most developers are not that fucking good. They're just good enough to fucking copy and paste the code that the really good developers can actually write. So it's really only like fucking like 20 or 30 real Bitcoin layer 2 developer, not Bitcoin, but cryptocurrency developers that are really advancing the space and actually creating new stuff. Most of their developers aren't doing shit. They're just copying everything, and then once the high priests and the Pope essentially create the doctrines, then essentially they make it into a form where they can essentially Lego piece it, and then when they release the Lego pieces out to them, and then the developers essentially put the Lego pieces together, and then say like, "Oh, look at this new thing I created," and then us plebs are like, "Oh my God, you're such a good developer," and like just jacking off in a fucking circle over the fucking developer, praising him. It's such horseshit, and like, and this is without me even fucking knowing about coding, and I can just tell this is going on because I'm seeing like just little fucking, I've just seen too many fucking like patterns and too many like coincidences on shit. Like these fuckers aren't developing shit. Like they're just copying and paste. Like, oh, basically you just because I'm not discouraging all developers because they do wonderful things, and there's some stuff in the Lego stacks where they're not fully connected, and then there's actual like development between the Lego stacks, but they're not developing Lego stacks. And most of these developers are not like, they're all, if you notice, when one major development happens, then magically all the development happens right afterwards. No, it's because they're all copying from the fucking main dude's homework. Yeah, original work is hard. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then that's why I'm seeing the thing, right? I mean, and then too, like even work. I know I'm just being a little bit like kind of like that, but it's just I just don't like how like a lot of the developers act in the space, because it's like this fucking like the developers like I don't know, like it, they're either sometimes they're really nice, but a lot of times they're like you like yeah. It just pisses me off because it's just like I've met quite a few developers, and they just think they're fucking God's gift to Earth, or like God, or like humanity's gift to the world, or whatever. Or they think they look down on people for being retarded, but most of them couldn't fucking really develop anything original anyway. So what the fuck are they talking about? They just dedicated themselves to essentially just coding to figure it out. And most coding, most people are just trying to get a job at the, so most people don't even give a fuck about coding at all. Actually, they pretend to do. It's just like fuck, like I might as well go into coding because then I'll have a job and I won't be fucking phased out, and then I'm better than a manual labor guy. And it's true for the most. I mean, because like it isn't like people are developing brand new languages all the time. I mean, some people are, right, the advanced people, but which is a very small subsect of like all developers and stuff. Yeah. Wait, people are lazy? Yeah, and
I think what you're saying, DCC, is absolutely right. And you had put out a tweet a few days ago, which is like, it really these is something to the effect of, it doesn't matter if the founder, the team of the project, if they're good, it really doesn't matter what they're building.
Yeah,
like what the project is doing. In other words, if you actually know how to develop something, and maybe your first project isn't good because it just doesn't have a good product market fit, but that means you can still develop something else.
Yeah.
And when you get that thing that fits, then you'll make it. But if you don't know how to code, you get lucky, you won't be able to recreate that.
Right. And I mean, most coders are like women, and I mean this because like a lot of the guys that are listening right now are from the red pill. And there's this whole thing where like women wait at the finish line to fuck the winners. And it's basically the same thing. These developers are all just sitting around waiting to see which developer or which kind of stack or which L2 thing wins, and they jump on it real quick and then try to get the alpha out of it. And then us plebosaurus rexes essentially are like, well, I mean, they're building it, and then you have to. But the thing is you have to use their shit because there's nothing else in there. And the other ones, that's why like builders end up making a lot of money. and dude, and like honestly, like Eat Leth program, he has a great I'm so sorry, like damn, my head hurts so bad. I have like 2 energy drinks, Jesus. Yeah, this guy right here has a great program on coding and stuff. And then that's what, like, learn coding, that's something I'm going to be doing in the bear market, is I'm going to learn to code so I can really shit on these programmers. That's what, because this is a big hole in my game. Once I can figure this part of the hole, oh my god, I'm gonna come after motherfuckers for all this fuck shit that they're doing. Because it's like, oh great developers, please show us the way. Like when layer 2, and like they're all just standing around, and like it's like the minute there's a big breakthrough, then magically like they all copy it, and then then magically there's like a 3-month space where everyone's fucking going V3, you guys. Like watch. There's going to be Uniswap V3 that comes out in May, right? And then 2 months later, Sushi V3, you guys. Oh, Curve DAO V3, V3 this, V3 that, V3 this, V3 that, da 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 da. Upgrade that, da 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 da. And it's all because they're going to try to copy essentially, because like once they've developed the code, then that's why I really respect the guys at Uniswap, because those guys are actually developing really cool shit. But at the same time too, some of it's copied. Like like some of their stuff for the curves and stuff, they copied it from Curve DAO, except they made their own version of it, which it might actually even be better, to tell you the truth. And it sort of sucks for Curve DAO, because they totally like fucked their whole business model up and jacked it all.
This is an interesting point that you're making, DCC, which is like in a field that's innovating quickly, you want to choose the players that are actually creating the innovation, and kind of bringing it back to Celsius. Alex has his weak points, but one of his real strengths, I think, is coming up with good ideas. And honestly, that's not easy. Like, that's probably where a lot of projects, that's their major lack. And so one of the reasons it's a good bet on Celsius is because you don't think Alex has thought about token barons. Like, you don't think that Alex has thought about, and all these, like, there's a reason that some of these things haven't come out yet, and it's because he wants to further innovate on them. And so that's why when you're placing your bet on Celsius, you're also betting on Alex's innovation. And that's like a kind of, in my mind, it's a bit of a never-ending call option. Like, the price just keeps getting pushed forward because you just don't know what's going to come out of his brain. Now, whether or not the team can execute is a little bit of a different story, right? There's obviously the execution and the delivery, and that's not easy, especially with a real company. Like, these DeFi projects are just 12 people. There's no overhead, yada yada yada. With a real company, there's things like politics and bureaucracy, and it's hard. But if they can execute, and they got the ideas, then it's game over.
Right. That's true. I mean, there's gonna be I won't go into my future. I've really thought in terms of like where everything will be at in 12 years from now, and it makes me sad on some stuff that I don't want to. I'm not gonna FUD my bags or FUD anything. Like, there's some stuff like I just like literally I've thought about, like I've thought about 3 or 4 cycles ahead of time in terms of where possibilities of where things could be at, and like one thing that I thought about since the minute I got into cryptocurrencies, what my brain was telling me was like, this essentially we're going through the roaring 20s, and it's literally almost lining up exactly how I thought. Like, we're so okay, so the only difference between this roaring, obviously all like history repeats itself, but it doesn't exactly repeat itself, but it rhymes together. But one difference between this one and the 1920s is that there's income inequality, but the income inequality is much greater on this one than it was in the 1920s, where the income disparity really happened in the 1930s after once the Great Depression started. But there's a whole bunch of stories and stuff you can kind of figure out if you go into this whole, if it goes into this. So it's like, okay, so let me just I'm jumping too many topics. Wait, so let me just jump back to the beginning of that. So what's going on is, what we didn't have in 2017, we had the birth of maybe Yield, which is basically, we had Celsius come out, it was pretty shitty, and then we had ETHLend, which is Aave, pretty fucking shitty, and then we had Salt, pretty fucking shitty, and it wasn't ready yet. And this is the same thing that happens every cycle: is the technology comes out, it's not ready. It's awesome that it came out. Half of it will die, and then the ones that survive will make it, and then that stuff's awesome. So then Aave came back to life. Now it's cool. Now you got DeFi. The only thing that's hurting Aave right now is just gas fees. But what I remember when I first used ETHLend back in 2017, it literally was like a credit card in interest rate. Like, it was 24% to borrow money. I was like, it's fucking like borrowing on a credit card. Like, what the fuck? Right. But now it's much cheaper. Now you can actually borrow at 3% or 4%. That's pretty good. That's decent. Okay, that's cool. But the gas fees are expensive, so it makes it out of the realm of possibility for most people. And this is where Celsius really is kicking everyone's ass, because they pay the gas fees, and then on top of that, Citadel. So
I can't spell.
Let's see. He doesn't know. Well, anyway, like I was saying, so what's going to happen is that this cycle, right? We've had the birth of governance tokens. Oh yeah, the Citadel. In the course, we had an entire webinar dedicated to the Citadel.
Oh really? Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It was pretty good. I forgot which webinar it was. It must have been like 5 or 4 or something like that, but it was really funny. But So what's going to happen is if you look at the 1920, there's a really good documentary on YouTube. I'll link it right now in a minute in the chat. You guys should watch it. I actually plan to do. I probably will, if there's a way for me to do it without getting in trouble. I'll probably do it in the course. I'm probably going to do a breakdown of this documentary that's on YouTube in a webinar inside of the next course, because it's really important that you understand, because it's the same sort of dynamics, it's the same patterns, because the main variable in history is that it's humans. So we just keep doing the same shit. It's just different technology, but it's all the same thing. Like, so in the 1920s, right, when you had the stock market run, so the beginning of the market was basically railway technologies, which are just infrastructure, right? Then it converted over by the middle of the century to the radio, telecom, which was at that time technology, right? And and at the end, I think it was financial services and stuff, which was obviously then it blew up basically. But so in the beginning of so basically the way the Roaring Twenties kind of started was after World War One. Or during World War One, they needed to raise money for the war, so they released something called like Liberty bonds or war bonds, and they essentially said, everybody come on, do war bonds, collect money, collect this, buy their 5 cents, and then when you get paid back you get 8 cents or 10 cents or 15 cents. Okay, cool. So what ended up happening is that you ended up having everyone who stayed at home, and you had soldiers that went off to war, and everyone saved a bunch of war bonds, and then we won World War One, and it ended in 1919. Once once that ended, right, the government actually paid back on those loans. So what ended up happening is that for the first time in history, or the first time in American history, you had a huge portion of the regular population, which was like the lower class and the middle class, that actually had a ton of savings from these bonds. So you ended up essentially indoctrinating an entire generation to become bond investors. And then this was a lot of the money that started up the equities market. So when these soldiers came back from World War One, they when these soldiers came back from World War One, what ended up happening is that these soldiers started trading bonds. And then there was a couple. Then the stock market guys, which was so there's this whole stock market side, which was basically almost just bank to bank, really only at that time. And these bank guys started noticing, like, holy crap, a bunch of these normal people, the plebs and stuff, are all fucking they're all trading bonds now. We should get them to buy equities. So the first people, equities. So this is the first time that normal people got introduced to equities. So when you hear the word equities, that's crypto. That's the first time you had crypto brought to people, because stocks was the technology back then. So what ended up happening was that it ended in 1918. Yeah, 1918. And then so what ended up happening is that over the 3 years, it took about two and a half 3 years for the bond money to start transitioning into basically into stock money. And then what they did is they took that stock money. So the first soldiers and the people who had their savings for the first time aped into the best companies, and then essentially bought a ton of some of the best companies in the world for super cheap. So it's, imagine if you got to buy, like, I don't know, Tesla for really cheap, and all that stuff, Tesla, Apple, and the biggest technology companies for really cheap. Then what ended up happening is that everyone started aping in over that whole from 1918 to 1921, and then started buying up all the stocks and stuff, and then that started getting really hot. And then as the stock prices started increasing, you had a little crash, and then they kept going up, and then more and more people started spending their war bonds money, because they had savings, and started buying equities, and eventually, by, like, I think I have to pull up a chart or something like that, but like by 1923, 24, you had another crash, and then essentially from there you had the invention of leverage, or margin, and they started giving people margin accounts, because by the middle of the decade, people ran out of essentially the war bond money. They had spent it all on equities for the most part. And then of course other people spent it on other stuff, but the portion of the population that was going to spend the money on speculation. Holy fuck, GE for Indian. Yeah. So they started spending that money on that. So so peep this. So let's just stop the story right here. So it's the middle of the decade, right? So it's the middle of the Roaring Twenties. So what happened was the guys who had bought the equities in the beginning of the cycle had bought the equities really cheap. It went up in price a lot, and then on top of that, they were actually getting dividends. So this is why you started seeing people like living lavish lives and fucking spending a bunch of money, because they started getting a ton of income. And this is the same thing that's going to happen on this next cycle. The next cycle is the income cycle for crypto. So we're almost copying what's going to happen. It's just we're rhyming, and it's different things, but it's basically the same thing that's happening right now. So right now, most of us are buying crypto on just cash, no leverage at all, because we don't need to, because the gains are so good. Eventually, what's going to happen by the next cycle, or especially by the end of the next cycle, is that people will start borrowing money to then be able to buy, or margin, or starting to use margin, essentially, because the gains start going down because the prices are going so high. So yeah, so anyway, so of course, keeping up with the Joneses started happening. So people were like, dude, we're making tons of money, right? So the same thing in the 1920s, right? They're on the courses or at their parties and stuff. This is what you need to do. So people started essentially taking like $500, borrowing on it, and getting $2,500 of stock. Then as the years went on, the margin kept getting higher and higher until you hit about the 1929 crash, and the average margin account was about a 10x. So people were essentially taking $500 and then getting $5,000 of a stock, and then essentially hoping the price would go up a little bit, and then sell it, and then pocket that money, and then spend it at the bars. And that's what was going on back then. And then of course there was a bunch of people essentially like trying to like rob people to like ape money into like equities at the tip of the market, and then people lost like all their money and stuff. And that's why they have laws on stuff where you can't accept people's money in from like orphans and widows, because a lot of people like preyed on those people, which was kind of fucked up. Yeah, and then here I'm not, maybe I'm not explaining this correctly, right? Because I've said this a couple times in private and stuff, because I'll have a much more ordered these for the webinar. But there's this whole thing too where people think when the 1920s happened that everyone lost all their money. Yes, an extreme amount of people lost their money, but there was like 2% of there's 2% of the people that are in equities that fucking didn't lose anything. They actually managed to sell the top, or sell enough and actually still have money left over. That these were the people that essentially started buying up gold. And so one of the reasons why there was the United States government essentially got rid of gold was because the people who didn't get wrecked in the 1929 stock crash essentially bought a bunch of the assets cheap and started buying up gold, and started a run on the banks, essentially, because they didn't believe in the dollar anymore, and they started buying gold up like crazy. So then some of the biggest confiscations and stuff. So you know how they made buying gold or owning gold illegal? They didn't really confiscate a lot of gold, but they did confiscate gold from a couple of really rich people that were trying to essentially kind of like monopolize it and stuff. So it's pretty insane. Like basically there's essentially a bunch of, imagine there's a bunch of, it's a bunch of really rich crypto dudes that made a bunch of money, and they decided to like, dude, fuck this, we're gonna rug the government, and then the government tried to rug them back. It's so insane when you think in terms like that, but that's exactly what happened. And then these people essentially were fighting with each other for a long time, until eventually they essentially died out in the 60s and 70s and stuff. And that's kind of what happened with the whole gold standard. Was the whole problem with the system was a bunch of like a conspiracy between like a bunch of French and fucking like American like oligarchs or crypto rich dudes from the 1920s that like kept their money. But of course you never get taught that shit, because it's not in the narrative. But that's what kind of happened in the in-between time. So yeah, so we're about to go into some really cool ass years where like the money you'll be able to make on your crypto is insane. You guys will be able to live lavish lives, but remember that the income is also the devil as well, because you get addicted to the income. It's going to be nice though. And then too, there's this whole thing too where like there's this whole thing with, I haven't come up with a good word for it yet, so I'm still coming up with phrases, because a lot of the shit I'm just coming up on the fly. But in terms of like these words, like when I came up with the dividend multiplication number and all that stuff. But there's Yeah, passive income is what you want, and you'll get that actually because you'll have crypto. And if you're able to buy the bottom, you'll have enough crypto. You'll be able to like actually have income for the next cycle and part of the next cycle after that. But what's going to happen is people are really going to leverage themselves in order to get the income, or eventually people won't be able to get the income at all anymore because they'll be outpriced. So then from there, that's where you get the speculative mania. So like people for the next cycle, people are going to buy up all the cheap assets that produce income, and eventually those assets will run up in price so much that normal people can't get them anymore. So then from there it just turns into full borrowing speculation mania to buy those assets. And when those assets get so crazy, they'll create new assets, and that'll be the third bubble. And those assets there will either be equity stocks, the equity. Dude, there's so much. There's so much to these bubbles that are going to happen. This is just the beginning. But trust, just come into the next course. I'll talk about it.
There we go. Come into the next course.
Yeah. So yeah, that was beautiful. Oh, my camera's not on. Yeah, it's not getting paid for existing because like a lot of people also like this is something I said in the courses as well, is that the how do I say this correctly without saying it's not making it sound fucked up. So a lot of people get mad at people who like get mad at whales who buy the bottom and like, what the fuck, they made so much money, they bought the coins cheap. But those people who buy the coins cheap at the bottom is what stops the coins from going to zero. Whales are actually like a key component of it. So if you have no whales backing it, the coin can actually just die, essentially, because when a coin just keeps falling and falling and falling and falling, it actually takes the confidence of a person. So the whale is risking his capital to buy that falling knife, and his hand essentially hopefully stops the knife at that point, creates the bottom, and then for stopping the knife from continuing to fall, they're rewarded with an extreme amount of economic upside because the system would have died without their money in the first place. That's why you're out. That's why you're giving outsized returns. That does the same thing with the guys who bought Bitcoin. Like I bought Bitcoin at $3,000. I'm sitting on like a 20x on Bitcoin. A 20x on Bitcoin. The fuck? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the documentary? Yeah, sure. I'll find it right now. But let's see. Sorry, I think I've been talking too much, Joshua.
No, this is good. I was talking to you offline, right?
Yeah.
I think one of DCC's real skills is this thing called hyper forecasting or hyper projecting, which is hyper forecasting is putting yourself in the future, and projecting is going into another, putting yourself in another person's shoes and being able to like really examine the situation in detail. I think a lot of people can talk about things in a general way, but be able to examine it in detail is not an easy skill, and it's really in part his alpha.
I literally didn't know that was like a skill or anything at all. Like I just been doing that forever. Like I didn't even know that was a thing, dude. Until you told me it.
Yeah. It's a thing, man. Look it up. Hyper forecasting.
Hyper forecasting. Okay. Cool. So do you have any last words, man, before we end this thing, man? Oh shoot.
HODL, man. I think Cell Token's in a good spot. I think that the math works out. The fundamentals work out as well. I think even Miguel's like number here. Like this is within the realm of possibility. And if we go public next year, like that just gives you more reason to HODL even through next year.
Oh, if we go public, we're going higher than that number. That's for sure.
So obviously there's some wisdom to trim off, so you can invest from a position of safety. Right. But the fundamentals are all good. Like I think we'll hit 4 million active users by end of next year. So that's almost a 20x from today. So price has to follow to some degree, right?
Right.
Even if we start to enter into a little bit of a dipping market, right? The market maybe it doesn't continue all the way through, but I think Cell will still hold pretty strong.
I think so too. So perfect, man. Where can people follow you, Joshua?
Yeah, sure. You guys can follow me on Twitter. That's mainly where I'm at. And in the future, I'll probably get something more formal together if you actually really want to schedule a consultation with me. But all my stuff is free. You can read some of my stuff on Medium as well. But if you do want to have a chat and talk portfolios or something like that, the only thing I ask is maybe you buy me a coffee.
Perfect, man. And you guys know, can follow me at Dollar Cost Crypto. And yes, stay tuned for more. I'm gonna have a lot more live streams coming up. All right. Later.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, DCC. I hope you have me on in the future. I hope I didn't make everyone fall asleep.
For sure, man. I'm trying to have you on Moon Gang this Sunday, so we can hang out a little bit more.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's a great crowd.
All right.